Hey there, thanks for joining us at the Rabbit Hole of Research, where you'll learn a few facts that you can impress your friends with at a party.
Hey, welcome to episode 20 of the Rabbit Hole of Research. It's a big 2-0. There it is. We're almost legal to drink.
Almost.
As a podcast. So this is the Rabbit Hole of Research.
On Halloween, we are getting smashed.
We're going. That's right. Episode 21. The day before Halloween, I think episode 21 comes out.
I think so.
But this is episode 20. Let's not go in the future. We did an episode on that. Time travel. Go check it out. We're here in the basement studio. Welcome.
No, we are not.
We're not. Another back-to-back episodes. We are not in the basement studio. Don't have to rehash all this. Kind of like Air Force One. When the basement studio shows up, we become the basement studio. So we're here taking over Reed's local.
Possessing the...
We're possessing.
Look at you go, Georgia.
And so yeah, let's introduce our host here.
Hi, I'm Melissa, one of the co-owners of Reed's Local in Chicago.
Yeah, there it is. And thank you for having us here to talk about that. Nick, usually you do that, but you forgot last episode, so I'll do it. What are you drinking there? What are we doing here? Celebrate.
Well, I think
episode 20.
Celebrate being here at Reed's Local. We're going to start off with Chicago ham shake.
Chicago ham.
All right.
Shot 'em
Cheers.
Shot 'em alert, and we're at the hams. Very tasty. Good way. All right, so possessions is what we're talking about.
Yes.
And I'm going to start off with grounding. Let's talk about what is a spirit, right? Because that's ultimately where we're at. A spirit is typically understood as a incorporeal or non-physical entity, right? And so these entities can inhabit places, objects, characters. They can be thought of as supernatural entities like ghosts, angels, demons, fairies, elves. They can be non-physical aspect of a person, often described as a force that gives the body life, energy, and power. Considered the seat of emotions, thought, and consciousness. It can be thought as the essential or animating principle of a person, often distinguishing from the physical person. It refers to someone's soul, mind, or inner nature. It can be prevailing attitude, quality, tendency that characterizes a person, group, or time period. The spirit of the Renaissance, school spirit. So spirit can be used in a lot of different ways. Religious contexts, spirits are seen as divine or supernatural, as in a Holy Spirit, or colloquially, a spirit can refer to a person's temperament, mood, or general disposition. So a lot of ways spirit can be interpreted, and I think that we see that through fiction as we go through and how the spirit can affect people or things. That's to set us off. And then because I like making lists, I do have 2 lists, and we can go from there. One is how a spirit enters a person or an inanimate object. And so for people, the spirit can enter during moments of vulnerability, willful involvement, death or near death, substance abuse, sexual activity, or inherited or generational. That's usually people. We see those themes play out. Inanimate objects, demonic attachment, absorbing negative energy, hexes, spells, cultural and historical significance, and revenge.
Joe, I feel like we've totally left the realm of science in this whole one.
Yeah, are you gonna bring it back around?
I will.
You've gone so far.
And I was gonna ask you, where did you get this list? What's your...
This list is...
Is this your list, or is this
No,
like
this is a list that I've curated, digging through the rabbit hole of research there.
Okay.
I'll put some of this in the show notes for sure.
I didn't know if there was a definitive source.
No, not me. It's curated movies. These you can think of these also as thematic through the possession. Thematically, this is what you have. This is what these kind of different ideas play out. So I wanted to define what a spirit is, because I think Nick hit it, that a spirit is usually in the very Handwavium realm of everything, and how do we tether that to science? Usually it's seen separate from science. But then also, as we go down this path, you may be able to distinguish, or as we do sometimes, some things are more hand-waving than others. So if you understand how we're talking about the possession and the ways you get possessed in, that would be it there. Yeah. So you dislike the list, or are you questioning what's on the list?
No, it just seemed
Or just
very...
me?
It
Just
just
in
seemed
general.
very... I don't know.
Scientific?
I just was curious.
We're coming up on Halloween.
That's right. Yeah.
And I have been on some ghost hunting tours, and they do use scientific tools and methods to try to determine whether or not they exist. So it's not out of the realm of science. It's just, it's adjacent to it.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. That you do have things where they go and you understand. Hey, fam. It's me, Joe. Sorry to break in here, but unfortunately, this is all we have of the recording that day. We actually chatted for another 50 minutes or so, but only the first 6 minutes were recorded. Not sure what happened. We think it was the Reed's Local ghost maybe came in and affected the recording. But a few weeks later, we got back together at Reed's Local, and Stephen could join us. I guess the Reed's Local ghost had the best intentions because the recording was even better, and we added so much more with our guests. So please enjoy the Possessed episode, Take 2. Cheers. Love y'all. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Rabbit Hole of Research. We're here with a kind of a redo at Reed's Local.
Hi.
So here with Joe.
You got Nick.
We got Nick.
We got some guests.
We have Georgia.
We have Georgia, of course. She's not a guest.
Hi there.
The main
I'm
guy.
at the times guest.
Yeah, sometimes, yes. People ask, like, where's Georgia at? Yeah, and then we're here at Reed's, so
Hi.
we can go ahead and...
I'm Melissa, one of the co-owners of Reed's Local.
It's local. And I'm Stephen Tramontana, co-writer and director of Killer Pinata, Bride of Killer Pinata.
Yep.
Is there going to be a third one?
Don't know yet. We haven't written. After every Killer Pinata movie, you need a vacation because they're really hard to make. So you want to just kind of die, but then you get recharged and you're like, okay, we can do one more.
That's awesome.
Does it feature the chain gang?
Yes, it does. Because you want a capper. I think 3's enough. 3 and done.
Three's a good number.
You want
Three is
to
good.
It's a good round.
Right.
yeah, so you want to do a little hat tip to what came before, and, you know.
Because then after 3, you got to go to space, and you got a 3D comes
Gets into
up,
some
right? You got
wild
right.
thing.
You gotta
I
go
think
down,
we
right.
should definitely go to space.
Oh, yeah, Killer Pinata in space.
Oh my God, yes.
Like,
Just
you know,
Absolutely.
when leprechauns went to
Yeah.
space.
Oh, and on our budgets, that would be hilarious. It would definitely be like trash bags with like pinholes in them.
Right.
1960s version of like space in a studio.
I'm totally down to help with that one.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you need anything.
You don't have to ask. I'm already there.
I'm like taking stuff from the lab and bringing it in. So yeah.
Joe, before we get started, let's go a good old Reed Chicago handshake.
Yeah, definitely. So we got a
Georgia,
shot
you-
of Malort
sorry.
here.
Oh,
You want the Malort?
Or who's
Melissa?
Yeah,
Sure.
Georgia.
I'm just
cheers.
working in an hour. It's
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah, we'll do this.
This is product testing. It's what we call QC
there you go.
before the patrons
So
come in.
I have a hams
It is.
along with that.
As I spill it in my beard.
And why don't you tell us about the tradition here? What's the tradition behind this? Or Melissa could-
That's our actual combo is hams with Old Crow. It's $4, and even though we've been open for 10 years, we can't raise the price because there will be riots,
Right.
even if we make it 5.
Yeah,
But we also have hams and Malorts here, and big fans of that.
I know.
Very
Malort's
cool.
a Chicago
Yeah.
liqueur, right?
My first Malort shot I ever took was before we opened this bar. In this bar, probably 14 years ago, maybe. And it was
cool.
Wally, and Wally goes, "Oh, I just like see the bottle on there," and he's, "Oh, I got a nice Polish liqueur for you." None of that's true. It's not nice nor Polish. And and so he goes, "Would you like a shot?" Normally, if a bartender says, "Oh, would you like a shot?" that means they're buying it for you. He made us pay for our shots and his. Also, Wally
That's the way
moved.
to do it.
But I've never seen another bottle like this, but I swear to God, the bottle said 9 out of 10 men like Malort. The other one is not a man. And I'm trying to
Wow.
find that bottle to confirm that was
All right,
true.
people, you hear it. Let us know out there in the world if you see that bottle of Malort. We have some money. So yeah, so today we're here to talk about possessions,
Possessions, yeah.
everything that goes around with that.
To really help round out our Halloween
Round out the house is
season.
the part of our Halloween lineup. So we were at the horror house before this one talking about werewolves, and now we're here a little bit down the street here in Avondale at Reed's Local once again.
a little later.
A little later.
Due to some.
Yeah, as everyone heard, we had some interference by the ghost of
Reeds.
Reeds, which
You
we'll
know.
probably get into that. But just lay a little groundwork.
What I love though is that you had interference by a ghost, and despite the ghost, you didn't make the show about ghosts. You made it about possession. So the ghost just has to sit here and be like,
think-
"Wow."
So one of the things,
It's
I
just
think
like
that
a
might
big
be
fuck
why.
you.
well, it could be the ghost, or is the building possessed right? So we had this,
Mm-hmm.
you get into that fine line between, was it a physical manifestation of a entity, or was it just the building itself conspiring? And that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Melissa, I know you told us a little bit last time about the history of the building here, so I
Yeah.
think that's a great.
Before we go right there,
Sorry.
let's just lay out, because I am a scientist and I feel like I have to do this. We won't become a lecture, but possessed, the meaning, like some formal meanings, it has a few. One is ownership. It refers to owning or having something as quality. Influenced by a force, being under the influence of a powerful force, such as a strong emotion or a supernatural entity, or supernatural control, often describes someone believed to be controlled by an evil spirit with their mind, body, or influenced by this entity, or an inanimate object being controlled and being personified through that entity to do human-like actions.
So what we can pretty much say is that the bar itself is the sixth guest today.
That could be the sixth guest. That's
I would say
segue
it's the sixth guest.
for Melissa to talk about. We're all talking about something, and everyone's out there. What are they talking about? What's possessed? What's happening?
And I have a question, but I don't know whether to ask it now or later. But
Okay.
that made me have a question.
You have a question?
Are you going to forget about it?
Ask it
Well,
now.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said it has to be an evil spirit, right? Was that the quote? Didn't it say evil?
I didn't say there was evil. Yes, that's a
So-
supernatural control.
But
evil
somebody,
spirit.
but it can be possessed by a not evil.
That is true.
Right?
Yeah, right.
I feel like.
I
it
got it.
could
So
be.
let's just go
I
with
just-
spirit. Let's
Okay.
addend.
I just wanted to say,
addend
hey,
that.
there could be
'Cause there
some
are examples. There
non-evil
are. Well, we can get
possessions.
into examples later of
Yeah.
this very thing, where I
Okay.
think you do have non-evil possessions. I guess if someone
They don't
possesses
sell as
you,
many movies.
you're generally not happy about the possession, and I would consider, maybe from whose perspective are we calling it evil? From my perspective, observing, and they're doing some fun things with you, and okay, that's not such a bad spirit, but the person whose body is taken over, it might be evil. I don't know.
Someone who's psyched about being possessed, they're like, I'm a better person now. Feeling real good about this.
Wow, this spirit really opened up my horizon. I'm living the life now. No,
Who's laughing now?
Who's laughing now? Oh, okay, that's a different movie reference. Okay, some history here.
Quick history of the building. We've had Reed's Local for 10 years. Before that, it was Wally's. It's been a bar since the 1930s. We didn't know what it was before then because the building's about 110 years old. We didn't know what it was beforehand, and we found out in 2020 that it was actually a mortuary before it became a bar. And across the street was the funeral home. And this was the 20s, so we don't know, was it a mortuary or was it a mortuary? But considering the activity that we've had in the bar, I'm going to go with the latter. And I've always wanted to own a mortuary, so I was stoked when I found that out.
Yeah,
That's
that
awesome.
explains some things. So we could have multiple, maybe just an
Yeah, it's-
overall.
It's bar ghosts and
Yeah.
old ghosts, and they all just want to hang out. Like, nothing here is bad. They're just.
Yeah.
When we did have some ghost hunters here, it was funny. I had one of the spirit boxes that spits out words, and it said it wanted gin because I had poured whiskey for it.
Wow.
Yeah, there it is.
That's a 30s ghost.
Yeah,
That is.
I know.
That's hardcore. Yeah. I like gin.
Get what you get, ghost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're getting a large. This is.
That's how you get the ghosts out of the building.
We're gonna here's some shots of Malort. You want that?
Back to the defining things, because I'm gonna just go a little bit to Soleil with spirit, because I think then that gets into this whole thing. What's a spirit, and that meaning? And it's either, it could be an incorporeal being that can inhabit a place, objects, take on particular characteristics. These are thought to be ghosts, angels, demons, fairies, etc. You also have spirit as in the inner, non-physical aspect of a person, described as a force that gives the body life, energy, power. It's considered the seat of emotion.
Oh, very
I'll-
scientific.
I'll put that in the show notes where that comes. A
These
seat
are
of emotion,
scientific
thoughts,
terms.
and consciousness. Yeah, the seat of emotion. I like that. That should be the tagline for Killer Piano.
Written down. We're committed to this now.
The spirit can be the essential animating principle of a person, often distinguished from the physical body. So we have the separation between the physical and its kind of non-physical, kind of the mind, the soul, inner nature, prevailing attitude, quality or tendency that characterizes a person, a group, time, period, or place. The spirit of the Renaissance, we said, or school spirit type of action where we use spirit in that way. And then in religious contexts, it can be seen as divine or supernatural beings that can influence human affairs, such as the Holy Spirit in Christianity. And then colloquially, spirit can refer to a person's temperament, mood, or general disposition, especially when energetic or animated. So just lay that down there because it feels like we'll just jump right into the spirit entering something, a person, or things like that. Yeah, take off from there. I can keep talking.
I think the one that mainly came to my mind when I was watching my films was Amityville Horror. Like, just seeing the gradual progression of losing it and becoming possessed was just like, oh, it didn't just happen overnight. It was just like a slow, drawn out, all right, we're wearing you down a little bit more, and now you're trying to kill your family again.
I'm doing it.
What's interesting about like Amityville in the 70s and The Exorcist is that I feel that possession's voodoo. That like it comes from Haiti and it was tied in with Christianity and stuff. But kind of in the 70s we were like, no, get rid of voodoo. It's all Christian. It's all the devil now. And we were all in the devil thing, the playing the records. And I think that kind of was the case until Child's Play, essentially. Child's Play was the first one to bring back the overly Haitian connection to voodoo and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to watch 70s stuff. And they're like, and I think the voodoo aspect of it is like the most intriguing part of it.
Especially speaking of it, as a trilogy of terror, we'll put in the show notes, the made-for-TV horror anthology. It was the third one with the Zulu, was it the Zuni fetish style, He Who Kills. And he had a little tag. I don't want to spoil it because I get yelled at all the time. But yeah, it was really cool. And just to say, the segment ends with a nice little twist. And so when you watch it, you'll see that. But one of the interesting things was the death scene was almost considered too graphic that network censors initially objected to it. Wow. So go back and watch that and see how far we've come with TV. So yeah, no, trilogy horror. That was one I remember watching that. And that out of all the horror movies I watched as a kid, because I watched
that got
quite a
into
bit,
the voodoo aspect, right?
Yeah,
I haven't watched that for.
Yeah, there was like some spell or charm on the dial, and it had like a little tag on it, and it said, "Don't remove this tag or else." And it was
just like my mattress. It says, just don't
that's
take
right.
off this tag.
Don't send this
by
thing out in the
law.
world.
But you didn't.
Constantly.
I have bad news for you.
Are you part of those police?
You're done. You're going. Yeah, banging on the
Just
door
like all
now.
that tax evasion.
I think he's getting funding for his next movie. Isn't he? The mattress cartel. Those faces popping up.
Literally, doctor. I'm like, is there a movie Murder Mattress? I think there might be. Dang.
Deathbed.
I think there was. Yeah,
Deathbed.
That's right, there it is.
The
Yeah,
bed that
yeah,
eats. The bed that eats. That is a legit film.
Yeah.
That was.
One on couches, right?
Is
was
that
a
another
couch one.
possession too? Is it a possessed mattress?
Oh my god, I don't remember. I was very under the influence when I was watching that one.
Perfect.
You
Yes.
were possessed.
That's how to do it.
I was possessed by the devil's lettuce.
See, it can be good.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah.
would Jack Frost be part of a possession then?
So this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because if you watch these movies, I think there's like Child's Play is basically, is that really possession? Because that was like transference of a soul.
Yeah.
Dolly Dearest, I think, qualifies as possession because that's like getting into some like spirits and stuff like that. Then you get into like Dolls, and Dolls is a morality story. They're technically they're dolls, but if you shatter the doll in the movie Dolls, they're like little human skulls under. So essentially, they are bad people that have been sentenced to being dolls, murderous dolls for the rest of their lives.
So where would you put Robert the Doll in this category?
Sorry, which one?
Robert the Doll.
Where am I?
Don't you remember we're not supposed to talk about
And
that?
that's why we have to
that
bring
stopped
him up
last
again.
time.
So
I
I'm gonna say
know.
we have
We're bringing it up.
have a
Nick
EMF meter,
doesn't
and
care. He
I can
just
talk the science of that a
throws
little
all
bit. But yeah,
caution to the
that's
wind.
yeah.
We
He
brought up
brought
Robert
it
the
up
Doll
in the
last
car
time.
driving
Right,
here.
we're driving here. He's like Robert the Doll, Steve. Come on, all right.
George is like,
Yeah.
he who should not be named. I'm like, now you're
Just
being
put that
mean
in the
to him.
notes.
Yeah.
That's right. It'll go in the show notes there.
But we also said thank you, Robert.
Robert, thank you.
Yeah, but
We want to get this.
has
No.
all these rules that you're supposed to follow. Would we consider him as a possessed doll, or is he like a transferred of spirit?
Yeah, it's tough without knowing
Or
his
can you
origin
split
story.
are you splitting that? 'Cause
Like, because what I think the story goes that his old owner used to be like oh, this is Robert, which was his actual name. He pretty much put himself into this.
So yeah, I
and
guess
then
that would be possession. then, yeah?
blamed. Oh, it was Robert who did this.
Yeah.
Oh, but it became a thing where what was going on?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I still think that might be something that hasn't been discussed or studied widely, where it's almost like a transfer of spirits, but it's like the entity is created from those kind of thoughts.
I mean, I have some
Like almost
categories.
God-
He's got categories. Okay,
I like
thanks, Joe.
categorizing things. That's
do
what
it.
I do. And we talk about ways the spirit actually enters something. I had 6, and you can add. We can argue about it.
It's going up in temp.
Can we
Let me-
subtract? No, I'm
you
kidding.
can subtract, but I had the spirit enters during moments of vulnerability, sleeping, unconscious, under anesthesia, or highly emotional stress state, thoughtful or willful involvement, where you're actually participating in the ritual and then you get taken over by a spirit. After death, near death experiences, substance abuse, doing something that it's thought to open spiritual pathways, devil's lettuce.
Thanks, Georgia.
Sexual activity, that's one where you have this transference through
Oh.
sexual kind of encounters,
Think of Rosemary's Baby.
or
Oh yeah.
inherited or generational
Well,
passed
with
down.
sexual activity like Rosemary's Baby, I wouldn't consider that. That's just
I know. That
getting
just came to
pregnant
my
right
mind
there.
when,
Like,
when he.
But they get
It's-
pregnant, there is some.
that's pretty much saying like any woman getting pregnant, they're being possessed.
Well, at this point in time,
No, but it was the
right. The
devil
sexual
as
activity led to the possession. That opens up a whole bunch of other conversations because you do have this. Yeah.
She was impregnated by the devil,
Right,
right?
right.
That's a. I don't know.
Are you saying that the semen was the?
I'm not getting into the
Like
nitty
a
gritty.
like an incubus, an incubus, and you have
Which
this
I-
whole thing. But this is like then the spirit, because were you spawning the devil's baby or were you possessed? But during the spawning, the growth, the matriculation of the baby, Rosemary then was possessed, right? So it was a manifestation. So that baby had. So you're right. It's there. This is this very, and I think taking over a woman's body. That's and then we have 2 women here probably can speak to this better than I can. So I'm shove it off to be taken.
No,
or-
Joe. Let's hear the man's perspective, please. Everyone
So,
wants
yeah.
to know what the man has to
Right,
say.
yeah, no. Well, hey Nick, that's your co-host. You can jump right on that. I have my categories. This is I know in and
Did you get through all your categories? I'm
Well,
sorry.
I have that was for people. I have inanimate objects also, and so I do have but we can break off down this rabbit hole if we like because we're here, so we can exit if you want. I don't, no pressure. I can keep
I
going.
think a peripheral to that would be going back to werewolves, going back
Yeah.
to vampires for a second. It may not be explicitly sexual, but it is penetrating, and that individual is changed, right? An individual as a vampire is not the same as they were prior to that attack.
Yes. There you go.
And so I think that we can look at it as that's on the side there.
Yep.
I can definitely see that one it's a physical bite, which is like, oh, these salivas is going in and changing the entire
And
body.
generally on the neck or inner thigh if you're John Carpenter's vampires. So people have
Give it up.
seen that. Yeah. Or Blackula, I think that was one. Was that? Did you do the same thing in there? Let's give it a little. All right, yeah. People are like going back through their VHS collection.
That's what's right in the
No,
like,
no,
go
you're
on,
right.
yeah.
You're not gonna find those on Netflix probably. So yeah, so then I have inanimate objects. I have demonic attachment, where you have some ritual spell or something that invites this demonic presence, absorbing negative energy. So you have this kind of thing where it comes in close contact with misfortune or kind of death in some way, and that passes this kind of dark energy. Hexes and spells, we're talking about kind of the voodoo style incantations. Cultural, historical significance. So you have that. Artifacts from ancient tombs, plantations, you have this kind of past kind of trauma.
Mortuary.
And then revenge. Mortuaries. Yes, that's right here.
That's what I was.
You
Sorry,
said
I
it.
didn't kick you.
Did someone kick you or something?
No, I kicked the ghost, I think.
It didn't go up.
Is that a-
Not here yet.
Is that a title of some 90s album? I Kicked the Ghost.
Yeah, that's my new ska album coming out.
And I have revenge, speaking of kicking, taking control of a physical body to exact revenge from beyond the grave. So those are possession and how things, I think, or what we see in media, in people start at one of these kind of places and then go from there.
I think just going back to the science of everything for a minute, I think one that people don't talk about enough is The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Serpent and the Rainbow,
a good
movie, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
right,
it's this idea of possession, right?
Yeah.
That somebody would die and they would come back to life, and then Wade Davis goes down there and figures out that it's very much a scientific
It
thing.
is.
It was the plant, the powder that they
Herbs,
put,
that's right.
yeah.
Yep.
And so it made him appear dead, and I'm like, wow, it's so fascinating that even the person that got, chosen that had that happen to them, they themselves thought they were actually possessed. There was something in their brain that once the coffin was opened up, they thought that they were truly possessed. So
that was the early zombie movies also, like White Zombie, and was at the late 20s, early 30s, and so you had that where they were on the sugarcane plantations in Haiti.
that voodoo
and
or
they
hoodoo?
It was voodoo where they were taking over. They took over the white enslavers to kill the other white enslavers and had this whole thing. So that was the original zombie, that you're being possessed by something else, and that incantation there.
but give that one a rewatch, man. White Zombie.
I know, yeah.
And like, because we
There
were
it
kind
is.
of talking about like the evolution of possession in movies. Like right now, I'm just thinking of one of my favorite genres is just like campy 80 gruesome movies, and I'm like the ones that I'm thinking of, like Night of the Demons, as far as possession.
yeah.
Like that's just
Right.
so good. I don't know if it's good, but like God, the effects in that movie are wonderful. And Sorority Sisters at the Bolorama.
Yeah.
I have not.
I've not seen that one.
I gotta put
Way to
that
put
on
that in
my
the show notes
list.
there.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it
Yeah.
went from like the 70s, you were talking about like, based in voodoo, and then it went to Catholicism, and then it was just like demons.
Oh yeah, like even
Just
with
like
Evil Dead.
Yeah, like
Like,
just
Right.
exactly.
You're
Like
reading the Book of the Dead, and
Let's just get right down
Let's
to
get right
it.
to
Yeah.
Right.
the
Yeah.
Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
That's where we start. That's always problematic.
What?
Pulls that out on the camping trip. You should. You know
just
what?
run, just run.
I think I left the oven on. I'm gonna head back home. So you can just go do that.
but like having
Right.
Ash getting his hand possessed was just like, oh, yes, cut it off to stop the possession. Just that's stopping the poison from spreading.
Folks out there, the rabbit holes always connect, because that was the "Who's Laughing Now" reference earlier. So
That's right.
it took a little bit to get there, but we get there. We do it. See how that's set up? So that's our.
You bring that reference back to the 90s with Idle Hands.
Oh, yes.
But I think we're talking about that. Is that full possession? Because it's just body parts being possessed.
Yeah.
Right.
There was just a tethered back.
Yeah.
Possession stories have been with us for a while. In my research, we have even going back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, circa 2100 BCE. It's this kind of Sumerian epic, one of our oldest pieces of literature, and not centered on possession, but there are these supernatural entities influencing humans and coming in. And we see this theme coming out. The Iliad by Homer, 8th century, you do have gods possessing, influencing mortals. So you always have this. In Chinese culture, you have the journey to the West. And that came up in our teleportation episode, where you have this thing, but also tale of gods, demons, spirits possessing, influencing humans. So it's always this kind of a lot of this earlier stuff, where they're gods influencing humans to do things, or their actions through us. You have the New Testament Gospels, contains numerous stories of demon possessions and exorcisms, with Jesus casting out demons from possessed individuals. And you have the Golden Ass in the 2nd century by Bill Lewis.
Go on.
And this novel includes stories of magical transformations and supernatural events. So I think there are these kind of just historical storytelling and these things that have happened. And same thing with a lot of our myths and legends, vampires, werewolves, hyenas, things like that. They trail back into these cultural kind of phenomenon that we either couldn't explain, or maybe we made up a story just because to teach some moral or thing like that. So
it does seem like there aren't many like examples of a good possession, like evil, or the idea of evil. Like even what we were talking about, Quantum Leap.
I was going to say Quantum Leap, though, isn't that a nice possession?
I feel like
right.
it's
I
not
think
like.
that's
nice.
usually positive.
I mean, well,
Yes.
you've
Yes.
pretty much just been like roofied at that point, where you have no memory of what's going on while this being is taking over your
Right,
body.
but it's usually
Like,
motivated by something that's. You know what I mean?
do you have the memory of someone taking possession of your body for the extent of the 30 minutes that's
Yeah.
going on.
We don't. I will go. Like, the other friendly possession out there is in Ghost.
Whoopi Goldberg?
Whoopi Goldberg. Does she have the memories of what Patrick
she
and Demi
did,
what they were doing?
What they were
Like, what now?
Yeah, right. And I love how the movie Magic, it wasn't Whoopi Goldberg. It was like they had the morphin Patrick Swayze there. So it was like,
Yeah, because you don't want to see Whoopi Goldberg without her eyebrows doing that stuff.
I don't. How do you know? Never mind. I'm just gonna. It's not. No. It's,
But that was also, I guess, if you're going as far as like Quantum Leap, I can see how it could also be bad because it is non-consensual. Whereas with Whoopi
right.
Goldberg, it was very much
was
consensual.
they did
And
use-
I'm also
yes.
like reading
Yeah.
a book right now that's kind of Harry Houdini versus like all the spiritualists in the day.
Yes.
And I'm just whether or not it was real, at least when they were doing seances and they were quote unquote possessed, it was all very consensual. You have permission. Even if it's not, even if it's like somebody coming and being like, I miss you, honey, or I don't know, someone's just you're a jackass.
Swallow your soul.
It is consensual in a way. So I
Yeah.
guess that would
yeah.
With
I don't know, but maybe neutral.
Quantum Leap is
Yes.
the part where it's like
It's gray areas.
like yeah, exactly. It's that gray area where
Well, that's that evil thing, right? Whose perspective are you
Mm-hmm.
commenting on the possession to be evil or not? Because I think without consent, then it is evil, right?
Yeah,
that's-
coming
we would-
inside someone is not a good
anytime
idea
you
just to be
have-
like-
In any other scenario, you would go, that's an evil act
I
that
didn't
was
mean that
participated.
one.
You know, though, every single one of those Quantum Leap people are taking total credit. After he's out of there, they're like, yeah, I did that. I
figured it
totally remember doing that and changed everybody's lives. I'm so cool.
But they only show the quantum leaps that worked. How many quantum leaps didn't work? Like you go back and you just effed everything up. We're now a total
Sucks to suck,
nuclear
sucker.
wasteland.
Challenge accepted. I'm going to watch every episode of Quantum Leap, and I'm going to come back to the show, and I'll report on this.
Here it is.
80%.
That's going to be a whole
Yeah,
other
we need to-
episode.
You need to make a few phone calls and get the other scripts that weren't done for you know.
the rejected scripts of Quantum Leap.
Hold on, what do you mean that? No, I don't think we can do that.
That would be a really interesting concept to do for the
Let's go
rejected
back.
Quantum Leap.
There it is.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's some good ones there. The one I just remembered, though, that I can't believe that I didn't bring up first was Shocker. Shocker's a true blue possession movie. Folks at home, it's a Wes Craven attempt to make another franchise post Freddy. Didn't go so well. And it's about a guy that gets sentenced to death, and he is able to zip up into the grid, I guess, is the best
Yeah.
way to put it. It's like he goes through electricity, and then he jumps between people, continuing his murderous ways. But you don't know which body Horace Pinker's in until it's probably too late.
Too late. Yeah.
Wow.
A full
I don't
possession.
think I've seen
Forgot about that movie.
Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah. And yeah. It was Deathbed. It's on my list of movies. The Bed That Eats.
I said that one.
1970
Yeah.
I know. I'm just adding to it. The tagline was "The Bed That Eats" in 1977. Yeah, that's a demonic bed that consumes people. It's on my movie list. I was like, oh, that's one.
I don't
Maybe in
even
the show
remember
notes.
how I
Yeah,
came
yeah.
across that
Yeah,
film. It
that's-
was
that's
like
there.
I'm going to say it's Tubi.
Yeah. Because I was looking at my list because after Melissa was talking about the movie that kind of she thinks about with possessions, you got you into it a little bit. I was going to say that it was like Christine. I think for me that was my dad was a big horror fan and things like that. You can make an argument like The Thing is also a possession movie, but we're not. We talk about The Thing on like almost every episode.
It's
so
'cause that's your
let's,
go-to.
I'm gonna go with Christine though. I think is one of these things with the car and that kind of possessed item and that history it had, and then the connection it made with Richie, and you had that whole kind of bond between the inanimate and animate, and it was actually moving through. So it was like the god once again, like the gods moving through a human to do actions, but then it took things in its own hand. It was like, hold on, you know what? My human is weak, and you know it's not going to be as evil as I am. Like
these
you know,
bodies
that-
are feeble.
you know. It was like, you know, right? Because there is some morality things. Like I don't think Richie wanted to kill his best friend and things like that. It was. I don't know. I mean, it was. He had some hesitations. I don't know if he would have went through with it.
Listen,
I think that
friendships
was
have valleys, right? I think it brings up a good point. Like you were talking earlier, I was like, is possession just a construct we come up with because we like it always is a sub-in for bad behavior.
Yeah.
But it's they were possessed by the devil. Maybe they just suck.
Right.
Right, right.
He was a piece of shit.
But then you do have that thing where maybe Richie would have mowed down everybody in that movie.
What? Just the Conjuring. What are the Warrens? that last film. Oh, he was possessed by the devil. That's why he stabbed that guy like 27 times.
They are my favorite real life crooks.
They are the
and
terrible,
my
worst fucking people ever.
And my favorite trash horror movie characters. I love that series so much. And it's
look nothing like their actual actors. It's come on, bud.
like if I could have Patrick Wilson play me though, let's be honest.
Wouldn't?
Who doesn't want Patrick
Even
Wilson?
Annabelle got to glow up.
You see real Annabelle. Raggedy Ann. You're a Raggedy Ann doll. Who's really afraid of that? You got this Raggedy Ann
Yes.
doll.
Oh, and I did confirm that the original Annabelle is in fact in Vegas in Zach
There it is.
Douchebagin's museum.
Oh, the douchebagans.
There it is. Gotta go there.
So
wow,
if
road
you
trip.
want, so they did move Annabelle, and if you want to see her, you can go to Vegas and see her, which is on my bucket list.
Wow.
That
is
totally
yeah.
Rabbit hole of research on the road.
I'll be there for that.
Well, side note, we'll have to go to Vegas, and then I know we've also talked about going to Nilbog because it's not that far of a drive.
Yeah.
What's there?
Trolls 2.
Oh, Trolls.
Nilbog?
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
Trolls
wow.
Oh my god.
Not possession related.
Yeah,
but
it's not. a
Yeah, let's not go
possession
down that
That's
rabbit
gonna be
hole.
it's gonna be
Trolls
another episode for that.
I did a whole. What
That'll
was
be the
that?
episode
It was
on
during the
vegetarians.
pandemic. Just a little side. I had some other writer friends. We were on Twitter back when it was called Twitter. So that's and then someone was like, "Oh, we should do a live tweet kind of event, watching Trolls 2." And so we went through and we all synced up the movie, and then we were like watching it, like, and commenting on just yeah, it's worth watch maybe. Like,
Just the beauty of that film.
Yeah. Go out there. I can't even spoil it. Just watch it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Watch Troll 1. That was pretty decent. And then go into Troll 2. There was a third one, right? 2? Was there?
I don't know, but Troll 1 and Troll 2 are actually completely unrelated.
They are, right. No, they're totally different movies. Like, kind of,
And the only reason it's called Troll 2, it had a different title, and they just were afraid of marketing it and not getting anyone to bite. So they're like, let's just call this Troll 2.
I bet you they made the movie.
That's
they were
awesome.
watching it, and they were like,
Yeah.
dude, you know what? This ain't going to go. No one's going to come see this. Like,
Yeah, no one's as liquid with titles as the Italians are. They will. They're like Indiana Jones 17. They're like, that is not that bad. But fine, okay.
I recently had some friends introduce me to Star Crash. Which it's the Italian version of Star Wars, but they had never actually watched Star Wars. They were just told, make a movie like Star Wars.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is that like Ice Pirates?
I have to check this out.
No, it's I can't even describe it, but it does have David Hasselhoff in it and Christopher Plummer.
Wow.
I do know this. We have an incredible watch list for anybody who's listening to this
Yeah, yeah,
episode.
this
Like,
is
your
We're
Halloween
not
is set.
discussing much, but we are giving you movie recommendations.
You are in. Yeah, there are some people try to apply science to this because that's what people do, and to have something go through, it usually goes through like peer review.
We've got something on
And
the
we
table
do have something
currently.
here. We have an
raised a
EMF
little bit.
It's
electromagnetic.
been raising the entire
But that
time.
would be
meter?
more finding ghosts
That's
than
It
what-
also
but
just
you
because
go-
the air
we
conditioner
use
went
this
off.
here. So this kind of, and Nick's like
Oh.
kind of wandering about now
Oh, you're
with the
getting
meter.
some.
I got some. It's at
So
25, 26.
While Nick is doing that, just electromagnetic fields and electromagnetic energy, we're all familiar with this. So everything on a scale from radio waves to X-rays, infrared, light that we see, those are all electromagnetic waves that we interact with in our world. And so they both have an electrical component and they have a magnetic component. And so these two things make it up. I'll put some links in the show note and folks can read up more on that.
Ooh, he's getting some
And
red.
so we're getting
What's in the bag?
a present.
What's in the bag, Joe?
I've enjoyed my time. I'll see you guys.
Yeah, we're going to see a live possession.
And so, yeah, so we have these tools. So what people think is that the EMF, these magnetic fields, indicate the presence of a spirit or some entity that might be coming in and out. So then you have temperature and heat rising. That could be an infrared. So that's how we perceive the heat that we have. These cold spots maybe that would happen because the entity is drawing energy. So you can use these tools that we use in science to go through infrared cameras, once again for the heat, get all predator on it. Audio recorders, it was called
The spirit box.
Electronic voice phenomenon, EVP, which are believed to be spirits' voices, not audible during recording. And so you have to capture it in these special Geiger counters. to detect radiation of the spirits that might be coming, motion detectors, night vision cameras. So you have all this kind of stuff where people go through and they do ghost hunting or possession hunting, and they have these tools that we have. But you can also, as you start to peer review, which we do in science, as you start to go through and then repeat the methodologies, repeat the experiment, a lot of these things don't hold up, or they're easily sometimes seen as just tricks of the instrumentation, that you can fool it if you have something like, nothing's in my bag. I don't know why my bag is giving off any
considering
any
this thing goes up immediately.
Yeah, the bag has a different opinion.
Both in the, is that the ENH field?
Yep.
Yeah. When
That's
it goes, E is electromagnetic and an electric, and then
Just
H
so you
is
guys know,
magnetic.
it's beeping.
So now it's beeping.
Oh, it shut off.
Yeah.
Whoa.
There we are.
I don't know what next door.
Maybe it's trying to go home with
We've
you
got-
because you guys talked about Robert the
That's
doll.
it, right. It's in there.
Oh, it's Nick.
You were carrying it around
It's a
earlier.
non-discerning ghost here.
I told you tore the thing off the mattress.
There you go.
You
There
literally
you
made your
go.
bed, and now you're
Now I'm gonna get eaten
You're
in it.
yeah. Should have seen this coming.
We have some other fun facts. We'll give some fun facts as everyone's collecting their thoughts on that. 41% of Americans in 2021 believe in ghosts. 20% are unsure if they believe in ghosts. And this was a YouGov study. 43% of Americans think demons exist. There you go. So
So sorry.
So wait a minute. It was 41% believe in ghosts,
Ghosts,
so 43%
demons.
They
That's
edged
right.
it out. The
yeah,
demons
yeah.
and
The
ghosts?
demons,
Okay.
the demons edge out the ghosts. Because some of the ghosts can be friendly. There's Casper, right?
Oh,
We got-
yeah,
I mean, I don't
okay.
know.
And I think also when we brought up earlier, like differentiating them, I think if you're talking demons, like that is very
Yeah.
much like a Catholicism
Right,
thing.
right.
I know this
Yeah.
because I went
And
to
it's-
Catholic school for way too long.
Are there any friendly demons?
No, I think-
Lucifer, he's a really
think
good guy.
by
I've met him a
Now
few
we're-
times.
Yeah.
You're splitting some hairs there. You're like Mephistopheles.
Listen, it was all propaganda. He gets put in a bad light.
Well, we need to talk to Chris about that. We have a whole episode where we talk about Lucifer.
It was a
that was a fun one.
I think it was episode 3.
I think it was
Yeah.
episode 2.
No, 2 was AI.
2 or 3?
Yeah,
it was
I think 3.
Because
yeah.
I remember
3,
we did
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first
It was
one.
my
Okay,
episode
yeah,
the
2.
three, yeah.
we're going down some other rabbit hole of memory lane.
Oh, yeah. So long ago.
So there was I'm hesitant to talk about
No,
this.
come on, we gotta talk about
no,
it
it's
now.
not a real. No, this
That's
is
the best
too
lead-in.
big of a lead-in. I messed that up. I should have just said it. I'm saying this because I read a book once, and I know that somebody probably read a bunch of stories about how this book is bullshit, but I read it and I thought it was pretty interesting, and it was about a British medical doctor who wanted to prove life after death. And so it was about how he couldn't get funding because everybody thought he was full of it, and it was insane. And they couldn't figure out how to do this. They're like, what is it? And so they realized that heart attack victims were your best bet, right? Because they often report coming outside their body as a ghost, seeing everybody trying to work on them, and then being pulled back into the body. But there was no way to prove this. So they set about trying to figure out a way that they could prove this. And so after a bunch of trial and error, they realized that every single person they were talking to talked about floating up from their body to the ceiling and looking down. And so one of the scientists' assistants said, we should put graphic drawings, a circle, a hedge maze, whatever, on top of the monitors and the TVs in the room. Nobody else could
Right.
see it, but anybody, the only way you could see it is if you're floating.
Right.
Sure enough, they try it. The very next patient recounts it.
Wow.
As they
Wow.
said, I was on the ceiling and I saw these things, and then they said, can you describe them? And that person described it. And they had 5 or 6 more that did the exact same thing.
Oh, damn.
And so it was this idea
Wow.
of, going out of the
Yeah.
body, pulling into the body. Maybe a little more than we know.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah, you got to get the book title
We
for
got to get that
show
on the show
notes.
notes there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't done any research post the book, so I don't know if it's been defined. So I was
right,
like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to say this and I'll get roasted. But
No,
I
we'll
was like, I do it all the
figure
time.
out.
I say
Yeah.
out of pocket things.
We're looking,
We'll
yeah,
figure
right.
out what that
Well,
book
that's why we have
is.
the show notes.
Footnotes.
So,
No.
what inspired you to make Killer Pin?
There's a rabbit hole.
No, it came from a practical place. We were trying to figure out, could you make, because technology has changed, and we're like, look, you could shoot a movie on a phone. We did not shoot Killer Pinata on a phone. At that point, we shot on DSLR. But it was the idea that technology has come to a place, could you make a feature film for $2,000, $3,000? We didn't know the answer. And so the idea of Killer Pinata was pretty great because we were like, look, it's so dumb that if we fail, you'll just laugh with the movie because it's such a ridiculous start. So when we shot it, we literally shot it in 8 days, and it was just a fever dream of production, and we worked backwards. It was a very Charles Bandian kind of thing, because we had the poster and the title first. Now what's the story? And the Killer Pinata is kind of that version of Possession. So his little backstory is that he was an employee in a pinata factory, and it was a prank that his coworkers pulled on him. He was over a giant Tim Burton that chopped up all the crepe paper, and they dropped him into it, and his blood and spirit went into a nearby pinata, and so he's out for revenge. So it's very much that model of storytelling, of possession storytelling, as opposed to like the Chucky.
Yeah. And
I have to say, I love the graphic illustration of that.
Oh, the animated sequence?
And we touched on the Trilogy of Terror and the whole, I like it where you had the sign that said, don't. It was a warning there. Like, instead of just putting it in the back closet somewhere where no one would see it, it's like right in the front, tempting. Oh, yeah, I want that thing that you say I can't have. I really want it. It was like,
yeah, the world of Killer Pinata is similar to It's Always Sunny, where it's a universe of silly and sociopaths.
Yeah. It's like no good people.
No good people in that.
You're some good shit, aren't you?
And just in case, there it is. I was like, we do have the original pinata head up there too.
And then I saw this one.
We're gonna have to get a picture of it.
That one's a
I took that's the replica. I took that picture earlier. Okay, we'll get the real head. Here,
Yeah.
we'll do it. We'll do like a selfie with it.
So we are safe at least from the first iteration of the pinata. I don't know what happens in the third one, but I know I'm going to be in it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You pointed out, so we're doing, for the first time, we're doing not the first time for the first movie, but the second time for the first movie, first time for The Bride, we're doing VHS releases. And Melissa, I sent it to Melissa first because when I think about VHS, I think about reeds because they're so
do that, right?
Yeah, you guys legitimately roll VHS tapes all the time, and it's great. And Melissa pointed out, she's like, I'm on the back of both of those covers, like front and center.
I'm in the first movie for 3 seconds, but my face is eternal on it.
Next time I see you,
VHS and
you
Blu-ray.
have to sign my copies. I actually pre-ordered, so I did.
Thanks,
I
man.
got
Appreciate
it
that.
on there. So
Absolutely.
I saw it come up on my Instagram or some feed. It was like, and I was like, oh,
we do have our VHS.
We do have a VHS, yeah. We
plugs
still have some
and stuff.
tapes, and I'm
Love that it's coming back.
Yeah.
How do we get written into this third film?
Third one, yeah. So like a podcast scene, we could be there, like
Do a podcast in a pinata interrupt. And just
I'd love to be murdered.
We should just pull full-on Gremlins, where it's like you guys reviewing the movie and being like, "These movies are trash," and then the pinata breaks and it's no, please.
Totally down.
we get Tandy vomiting on us. It's great, yeah, I know. That's it.
I want it to explode out of my chest like it's a xenomorph.
That's right, yeah.
Let me tell you, I've tried so many times to get that exact gag into these movies,
There you go,
and
we
I'm
got it.
always turned down. So maybe we can live
We
the
can
stream
do it.
together.
We can go.
I'm telling you now, yes, I am in.
Yeah, no, I got it.
what if he came in through your back and then
That's right, and the head
came in
comes
and
out,
started
I'm sitting
talking
there.
into the mic, and that's how you
Yeah,
found out
just
he
see
was
you, and
there?
I'm like, yeah. And I can say, say something.
I just thought it was going to be a nice Christmas movie, but I guess we're doing a whole new thing, I suppose.
You could still make it a Christmas movie.
It still can be
Yes.
said. If it's set at Christmas, it's a Christmas movie. It's like
That's
with
an
Die Hard.
argument. That's an
You know.
argument. But
Yeah, it
we're-
is. Die
I don't know
Hard
if
is
we're
in
gonna
there.
go
Trading
there.
Trading Places is now in my Christmas movie list.
Yeah,
it's
Trading
set
Places
at
got scooted over to that
That's
one, too.
right. Yeah, you gotta get to
Planes and automobiles
on their
is
Christmas list.
Thanksgiving, right?
What?
Planes, trains, and automobiles. That's Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a
I was like,
Thanksgiving.
wait, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
but I was like,
Yeah, your double feature options there are trains, planes, and automobiles followed up by Thanksgiving. That's it. Those are the two that you get.
So good. No other Thanksgiving.
what's that one? The turkey one. Oh,
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, which actually was the one that gave us the courage to do Killer Pinata. We
no
Really?
shit.
We saw Thanksgiving, and I was very vocal about that because I think Rubber started it all. Talking about possession, Rubber, the killer tire, was the thing that I think really kicked off this dumb thing. And then you had Thanksgiving, which I think did it
Right.
really well. It's such a good movie. And then after that, it was like us and carousel and killer sofa. And
I mean, you
There's
also
like
have
the killer,
Poultry
what's
Guys.
that killer llama
Yeah.
movie too?
No,
That
killer
Llama Get
Kill
sofa.
Alone again. That's right. Yeah,
Killer
there's
sofa isn't really a sofa, is it? It's a recliner.
It was a recliner, right? That's right. Yeah.
Really
Now they won't
disappointed
join the
about
podcast.
I know. Yeah.
it's funny, it's weird. I see that all the time. It wasn't a sofa. That we're getting hung up
right.
on that.
It was a love seat. I like to say it was a chase. I can't. So yeah, the thing I wanted to touch upon, because it had a really interesting kind of history, was the Ouija board. I think our communication with the spirits.
Oh, you brought that up last time. That was
last time.
very
What are you talking
I
interesting.
thought
What is
about
this
picking one up.
last time. I know. I think we're going to do it in the
Can you-
basement.
No, I
Yeah.
said absolutely
Oh,
not.
that's right.
Yeah. You were going to do it in the
One of-
basement, and
one
Melissa
of
doesn't
our
know.
one of our door guys, I'm going to bring my Ouija board here into Reed's, and I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. You're not working here anymore if you do. That is the one thing. I don't know if it's superstitious or because my mom had some horror stories. That is, I have done some stupid shit, and I'm not just talking about drinking in my 20s. I'm talking about experimenting with like spiritual stuff as a kid and as an adult. I'm like, I've done some stupid things, but I'm like, that is the one thing that I am superstitious about and will not touch. Like light as a feather. Oh, that's fine. Also, still, yeah.
The
but I'm
amount
like,
of
They
shit
want
that
There is
like,
something about-
kids are like, oh
Done
yeah,
Ouija?
this is a thing that
Yeah.
we just do as youngsters, and
Yeah.
crack an egg over your head and let the egg run down.
I
Let
never
the-
did that.
No,
I never did that either.
Oh, that
No.
one's a weird
Yeah.
one where it's no matter after school, state after state, there's a bunch of people that just know this rhyme where it's like a whole thing where it's crack the egg on your head, let the yolk run down. Let the yolk, it's like stab a knife in your back, let the blood run
there's
down,
like
let the blood run down.
The
It's like,
Bloody
interesting.
Mary
Let's put that in the
thing.
show notes.
it's
Yeah.
I've never
fucking
heard of that.
weird.
Yeah.
I would love to do a whole like rabbit hole of just kids rhymes that are just fucked up.
A lot of things
There it
like
is. That'll be the title of the episode. PG-13.
and then the Ouija board has on there, I think it's 8 and up, right?
8 and up, that's right.
Yeah.
Underage.
Seriously.
Under 8, you're in trouble. Very
Kitty
vulnerable
one.
to the
But you
spirits.
had a little bit of the history
So-
of the Ouija board
Yeah,
last
yeah,
time.
it's-
Do you
it's-
have some of
But
that?
I was gonna say, I wonder if it is just it's a game. So the 8 and up guess would be because of parts. But if you're also looking at it from a possession, from a spiritual perspective, it's also like kind of the legend's not the right word. The lore that children are the ones who are still
right.
most connected to the spiritual
Vulnerable,
world.
yeah.
That's good.
If a 4-year-old, 5-year-old starts playing with the Ouija board, are they more susceptible
That's a
to
good
being
point.
possessed or to having experiences with it?
Right.
So the Ouija board, it was known as a spirit board, talking board, witch board. And if people don't know, it uses a planchette to spell out messages during a seance or communication with spirits. And also, Ouija is trademark of Hasbro. So just wanted to put that in. So-
Send you letters there.
that's right.
There's
But
a Halloween 3 Ouija,
like
by
all
the way.
this, we were,
There's a Hello Kitty one as well.
there it is. Yeah, no,
You
that's,
can continue.
yeah.
We're just talking
But
about
they're
the
not
Hasbro
for
branding.
under 8. Under 8, but we'll make it like the cute characters on it. But nonetheless, the first we were talking about historical, how possession's been with us. But in China, some of the first Ouija type boards were found in China around 1100 AD, and historical documents of the Song dynasty. The method was known as Fuji planchette writing as a mean of necromancy and communication with the spirit world. And it wasn't forbidden until the Qing dynasty. We'll put some of this in the show notes. The modern Ouija board, as we know it, was patented in 1891 by Elijah J. Bond. And really interesting there is that the patent office actually refused the patent. And so Bond and his business partner, Noseworthy, traveled to Washington, D.C., where as they were denied, they went to the patent officer. And the patent officer, if you want a patent, then you have to spell out my name with the board. And it did. And so they got the patent there. Take a step back before it was patented. It was developed by Kennard Novelty Company in Baltimore, which was founded in 1890 by Charles Kennard and another investor. The name Ouija was provided by Helen Peters, a medium, during a board session. It was claimed to mean good luck, though it may have been inspired by a necklace that had Ouija on the back of the necklace. The board really gained popularity in America after the Civil War, where people were seeking to communicate with lost loved ones. And so that was it. Some science. We try to talk about that. There was a paper published in the Phenomenology and the Cognitive Sciences in 2019 on the predictive minds in Ouija board sessions. And the study set up was it tracked the eye movements of 40 players to accurately predict the words that were spelled. And so while an individual player couldn't predict where the planchette would move, the combined eye movement of the pair of players revealed that the spirit, in quotes, I'm making air quotes, will write, especially after the first few letters, the actual word that's going to be spelled, which can occur and seem randomly. And this is
I think I brought this up last time. I think there needs to be an experiment where the people are blindfolded.
Right, and then they go and see.
Yeah. Because then if you have no idea what is on the board, then all right, if you spell out someone's name, it's more believable.
Yeah. I think that's the idea, that they started tracking eye movements and predicting what word was going to be spelled. So it was that similar thing that they were showing. And this is the ideomotor phenomenon. It's a psychological phenomenon wherein the subject makes motions unconsciously. And so you're being unconsciously guided by your other human players. As they are looking at letters, you start looking at the same letter and moving the planchette around there. So it was really fascinating, the whole history of the Ouija board and everything. And even with all that and the science there saying that it's probably a lot of Handwavium, I'm not doing it.
I just like the idea of a 1930s boardroom bringing in this medium, like these like madmen, like guys smoking, be like, what do we call this thing? Those gypsies, I'll tell you.
Can you imagine this patent office meeting? You storm down this patent.
If you could spell my name.
Yeah, right. I'm not giving you a patent unless this board can spell my name. You sit there and it spells a name.
All about you.
And it's, let's go ahead. Hey, let's put them down. Patent number.
That's really interesting about the Civil War, though. And I feel these eras of grief tend to lend themselves to this. And I was thinking, going back to the Amityville and going back to the 70s and stuff. And I like thinking about what we're going to talk about in the show today. And I was like, what is it about possession, man? What is it about these things that come back? And what I landed on was, I was like, I don't think it's a mystery that we've moved away from it. The more as a culture, we've moved away from like religious affiliation. And I think in the 70s, the country was in a really bad spot just for all sorts of reasons. Yeah. And of course, that's a time when they're like, it's got to be the devil. It's got to be possession of people. And then you get it in music and you get it in homes and bars being possessed and dolls and all kinds of stuff. And so it seems to be that, when we're going through something terrible, that's when we're like, this of course is out of our hands. This of course has to be nefarious things that are doing this to us. And it's like the oldest human emotion.
We can't be the only reason that this is the problem now.
Right.
You always go to gods. Some of the gods are moving through me, or this is, it's always, especially when bad things happen. No one's ever being possessed when they, like you said, like the quantum leap thing. I think going back to that, it's no one, it's like you're there. It's always, oh man, you really messed up there. Oh man, the devil took me over. That's why that happened. Sorry.
I'm a good
That's right.
That reminds me of like your initial talking about the definitions, and when possessions happen is moments of vulnerability and emotional things, so that kind of goes full circle.
So as we're getting close, I'm getting towards the end of my beer, and we try to limit the episodes to about a beverage. Let's go around. I mentioned Christine as one of those movies, possession movies, that really get me and got me thinking about it. Can we go around and maybe talk about that possession movie that we think about? When we think of possessions, you tell someone, what movie should I watch that embodies possessions? I think that's one. I can name some others, but that's one that I really... Nick?
Honestly, I do have to probably go Evil Dead. Because that is the first one that's like stuck in my head. I watched that as a child. Probably shouldn't have. There was the whole tree scene where it was like,
tree.
Oh.
That was not a non-consensual tree. Yes.
But that whole film was just like, that was ingrained in me because of watching it.
And really well done, too, because you had the horror aspect of it, but then you also had this comedic feel to it. Like it's like it shouldn't be this bad. It
had that campiness.
It's like it's actually it was a really well done movie. Like you watch it, it's like, that was some good storytelling was done in that, because sometimes the movie, they just go total camp, they go totally, there really is no story, no character development, and you're just watching it for the horror and the kind of the jump scares and things like that. But no, that was a really really well done. So
what about you, Melissa?
As far as like human possession movies, those don't intrigue me as much as doll possession movies. The first ones that I really remember getting into was the Puppet Master series. Once again, I was way too young, and when you had the video stores in the local Jewel or the Dominic's, like I would be like, Dad, get Puppet Master 2 and Happy Birthday to Me and popcorn. And my mom would be like, go get the Care Bears movie. And I'm like, that's even scarier. What are you thinking if I get the Care Bears movie? And Dad, don't forget Puppet Master. And I had watched, I don't think it's the best series, but it's definitely the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's
Yeah,
from
no,
a
that's
young
right.
age
That's
where
right,
it's
yeah.
just
And
ingrained.
Child's Play is way too good for what it is. Like that's probably my favorite horror series is Child's Play, like as far as quality and being consistent and still just producing just really
Quick side note.
really great stuff.
How do you feel about the TV series?
I love the TV series.
I enjoy it.
Shouldn't be,
seen it.
and especially
I
being on
enjoy it.
Sci-Fi Channel, it shouldn't be as good as it is. There's
Also,
no
Sci-Fi
reason
Channel's got
for
some
that.
bangers sometimes. They
They
got some
do.
duds on there, but they sometimes just bring out, and where'd that come from? They pay those writers and actors enough because that was.
Yeah. And also, if it's okay if I share Luke, who's been fixing our doors and been listening
do
the
it.
whole time,
You
give
wanna-
some
you can-
recommendations as well.
You want to speak in the mic there, Luke? Yeah, come on. We have someone
Everyone,
here
this
at
is
Reed's.
Luke.
Luke's here.
Hi, everybody. I'm the ghost of Christmas past who's been making noises. Via the discussion of the third year, who happens to be a big film buff kind of guy, too, there were a few that came right to my head of recent titles. Talk to Me,
Talk to
the
Me, yeah.
Australian one.
Great one.
Is
that was
fantastic. Brendan Cronenberg's Possessor of recent
seen that.
note is
I haven't
really
checked that
I
one
haven't
out.
checked
Is
that
it
one
good?
out.
That's a
Is that
wild
good?
one. And there's another film called Lutz, Luz.
Nice.
I'm trying to recall if it is a Spanish or if it's a different foreign language.
I think I watched the trailer for that actually.
Yeah, and it comes off. It's hard to tell whether it's a ghost or if it's an alien.
Yeah.
But the idea that
interesting.
this thing possession sort of
Right,
moves
right,
around,
right.
and then the other one that I just had to bring up because it would be my favorite was The Wailing.
The Wailing.
Have you not seen the South Korean?
Yeah.
Junil.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's
Wow,
fantastic.
my list
Yeah,
is
there it
getting
is. This is
longer and
good.
longer.
There's some movies on this
And then
list
in
here.
terms of classics, the two that come to mind is The Amazing Mr. X, as the also known as the spiritualist. It's like an early one because the fella sort of definitely puts on the whole thing, trying to convince those that he can speak to the spiritual world. So it's all in that vein, as well as Blythe Spirit, the early David Lean.
I don't think I
which
know
is
that
just a
one.
I don't know that
fantastic
one. Yeah,
It's
wow.
also been remade
sounds
recently,
good.
but
Wow.
it's a
I'm gonna take a
comedy.
picture of your list. That
I know.
way.
Yeah. Well,
Go
can we
for
put
it.
that
Go
on the? Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
going to take the mic
well,
back
send me that.
really quick because I thought of something when he was talking about alien possession.
Yeah.
And in our book club recently here, we read Chalky, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
this child actually possessed by an
yeah,
alien
yeah.
who knows all these scientific facts that a child shouldn't know.
Oh, wow.
It was
Yeah.
really
Wow.
good book from, I believe, the 1950s, and that's
that
what I was
sounds really
trying
good.
It's
to...
really good, yeah. Almost like
Figure
Zero
out.
Hour.
It was,
but that was Alien. Ray Bradbury. The aliens were working through the
Yeah.
children to build their devices and stuff.
That-
Yeah, that one.
Chalky by John Wyndham.
All I know is the
Wow.
footnotes for this is going to be a
It's
very
going to be
big
a lot of
movie
lists.
list.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
But
awesome.
You speak of possessions too. Alien possessions. We didn't talk about that, but you have like Life Force.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
kind of tells with the vampires. You have The Hidden, which was one of these ones, and that the 80s. That I think it was 80s, late 80s that came out. Yeah. So that was one. Night of the Creeps. You think about that
Gosh.
one, and you go. So you had all those kind of movies there that they were these kind of alien, which is a whole.
I forget about that
Yeah, no,
whole-
that's a different rabbit hole. Maybe we'll go down. But we were talking about young ages, and Christine came out. I was like 8, I think. Once again, early. I saw The Thing when that first came out. I think I was 7. So horror movies have been like a part in sci-fi, obviously, and then that probably led to me becoming a scientist at some level. So,
But I
yeah,
think that's
Ignore my comment about Chalky. It was an imaginary friend.
an imaginary friend.
the best possession.
Always.
I think that it's great though that it's weird to me that people are always worried about kids in horror. I know Melissa and I have talked about this, but I feel like a lot of horror fans discover horror way before they should.
Yeah.
And it's always a good thing. Kids know how to
Yeah.
put it in its proper box.
Right.
Yeah,
And
like I don't think I don't have fear anymore. Like I thrive to find something that scares me,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
I'm cool with that, but it's because I've had it at such a young age where it's like, all right, cool, I'm all feared out. There's other scarier things in life.
I think there's really a trend in. I work as a children's librarian, but there's really a trend of scarier books
Yeah.
for younger and younger kids, and it's they can handle this. They
Yeah.
enjoy this, and
It's a good way to process trauma, I think. You see a lot. I mean, you're starting to see now a lot of people of color write horror, and they have their books coming out, and, you know, and just the writing world, because I know a lot more authors than movie makers. So I sit there and talk, and it is interesting hearing their thoughts about horror and how they're using it as that conduit to explain, to process kind of these, you know, traumas that we go through as people of color. So it's really fascinating, really exciting time for that, and using this kind of thing. And as you start reviewing horror, you start seeing that. And speaking of younger, they're trying to compartmentalize this also, and I think that's what's important.
I don't
here, so.
know. I'm still traumatized by Neverending Story and still trying to process that. So
As a culture.
as a culture. But yeah, I'm glad that there's a trend for scarier stuff for kids coming out, because like my nieces and nephews, I watch the stuff that they watch, and I'm like, at your age, I had already watched like every horror movie on the shelf. You're like 8 and you're watching Bluey, which is also fine.
Which
Bluey's
is fine. Yeah.
But when my niece was 2, I had them watch The Dark Crystal, because I'm like, listen, my nephew who was 4 at the time, terrified of it. But my niece, I have video of her going, Auntie, Skeksis go, aye, aye. And I'm like, okay, this is, but not terrified. She loved it.
Yeah, Dark Crystal.
Wasn't terrified. I think you're right. The kids don't process those kinds of things as they know how to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Or it just goes over. They'll just file it away as just a thing, right?
It's just a
kind
thing.
Scary stories to
When
tell
you
in the
have-
dark, goosebumps.
Yep.
All
Right.
of those
100%,
shaped my childhood.
Right.
And if
Like,
they're too young for it, it will just go over. They just won't. They'll process it as something that's in some broad category. It's the same thing when you have small kids and they see it's just act normal, don't freak out. Because if you freak out, then they'll freak out.
Yeah.
But just go, and they'll compartmentalize it for later. They go, I'll revisit that when I'm older.
Yeah.
And,
I did promise, though, my parents that I would retell the story of my brother and the Chatty
Please,
Chucky doll.
yes.
Before you do
please.
that,
Oh,
get
wait.
to the Chatty Chucky. Let's go finish the movies.
so sorry.
Because we got
no.
a couple more, Stephen.
Actually, I just want to give a quick hat to Melissa. Reminded me that and Puppet Master, actually, that is a good possession. Andre Toulon's puppets are his dead friends that he put into the puppets so they could continue to fight against the Nazis. So technically, the puppets are a good possessed force. That's it. I feel like for one possession thing that I love is the actual book of Serpent and the Rainbow. I think the movie had some struggles. That when you read the book, though, it's fascinating. And then I'm gonna stick with Shocker. That is fun. 10 p.m. kickoff schlock. That is the best. And maybe, I don't know, it's an edge for me on those Craven Universal movies.
Oh, gosh.
Georgia?
I know. I feel like I'm on the spot again.
You
I
are the
know,
last
I
one.
You've
know.
been thinking about it this whole time.
No.
You wanted Melissa to tell that story so you get more time. You're like,
I do. I like some new stuff that I feel is paying homage. My best friend's exorcism.
like Grady Hendrix, the
Yeah,
writer,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
and now the movie just came out.
Yeah.
And
I read a book recently. I guess we're talking movies, but
movies, books, whatever media you like. Rainbow as the novel versus the movie. So
I really enjoyed a book called We Don't Swim Here.
Yeah, that
and
was
I
really
had
good,
you
yeah.
read that.
That was good.
And that brings up some interesting things about the possession and whether they're good or not. But I don't want to go too deep into that because it's a good book and you need to read it.
Yeah.
You did remind me, I don't know if it's good possession, but Jennifer's body. Which
she a succubus?
she was taking revenge on the men who assaulted her.
Yeah.
That was another thing, like we had talked about, like horror being about women's empowerment. So many women who are fans of horror, because
Right.
even though there is the final girl trope, so there is women's empowerment in it.
And I think,
Right.
like you said, revenge, maybe from a black person's perspective also, and dealing with trauma. And yeah, that's a really interesting
Candyman.
thing. When you talk about
Candyman.
revenge,
Candyman,
they could be evil in the sense that they're doing bad things, but it's for good reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
The
mean?
Tales from the Hood segment that was inspired by
Yeah.
Tales of Terror.
That's right,
That
yes.
was very
That's
much a
right.
revenge, good revenge
Yes.
situation.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the Chucky thing? What's the Chucky thing?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I love this story. I do love this story.
My mom had, when we were, so my brother was terrified of the Chucky movies, but part of the reason he's still as a 30-something adult. So my mom had this Chatty Cathy doll, which if anyone's not familiar with Chatty Cathy, it was a talking doll in the 60s, I believe.
We'll have a picture on the Instagram.
Okay,
We'll put
yeah,
it in the show notes,
I'm
too.
going to have her send me one of
Yeah.
her
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll
Chatty
definitely put
Cathy
it in
doll.
the show notes.
We refer to her as Chatty Chucky because the doll is old. The only clothing she has left is a red fur coat. Her hair is messed up, and she used to still speak, but instead of the actual Chatty Cathy speak, it was more like just that kind of thing when you would pull her string. So my sisters and I loved horror. So we would be watching like the Chucky movies, and when my brother was little, my dad would take Chatty Chucky and he would bring her downstairs and just pull the thing and behind my brother, who would just jump. And he would move Chatty Chucky around the house.
Yeah.
Just
Chatty Chucky on the shelf.
Yeah, it was like Elf on a Shelf, but like possessed dolls. I believe my mom has her hidden away right now, but also if you go into my mom's basement, I'm like, why do you have so many creepy dolls? This is unnerving. But yeah, he's still to this day afraid of Chatty Chucky. And that is a case of it appeared to be a possessed dolls, but it was really just a loving father fucking with his kids and scarring them for life.
I think it's creating core memories.
Yeah.
Creating core memories.
Like,
Resilience, I think they call it grit and resilience. That's it.
one more thing onto your kids being in horror, and they have that whole Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff.
No.
That was a
That's
good
huge.
start to bringing kids into that horror genre. That, even though I know it's not for everyone, but it is that aspect of just introducing them into that genre.
Monster House.
Monster House,
Monster House, the animated
That was
film.
actually really cute.
That was.
That's
That was
a
good.
really
No,
cute.
It was good.
Good
But yeah,
feelings, good people, man.
And that was a possessed house.
It was
Yes.
a possessed house. Yeah, the woman. The woman,
And I was
his
going to
wife.
say, I'm
Ash,
not
yeah.
super familiar. I know about it. But are the dolls or the
Animatronics.
Yes, exactly. Are they possessed?
Yes.
Okay.
That,
So
that,
there
that's
you
why I
go.
was like,
There
like,
you go.
I know it's an overrated game now and everything. Like they have a whole franchise. They have games, they have books, they have movies now.
And they have Willy's Wonderland starring Nicolas Cage, which is a ripoff of
Cage.
Five Nights at
Yeah.
Freddy's, but
it's
brilliant.
Nicolas Cage.
But it's Nicolas Cage.
We got him in.
That question comes up a lot. I'll have friends with kids that are, let's call it 9, 10.
Yeah.
Be like, they're interested in horror. What can I show my kid? And I was actually talking to Jen Kunkel about this. She's a buddy and producer of Killer Pinata, and she's got 2 kids. And we were saying that you could probably show most kids a lot of things from the 80s because I think we look at movies from the 80s differently than a 10-year-old today would.
Yeah.
Those movies probably look pretty dated to them if they're
That's right,
watching.
yeah.
You're going to see the seams on that from their eyes. And I'm like, I don't know, man. There's quite a few 80s films that you could show your kid. They're going to be fine. It'd be like watching, a 60s movies when we were 10. You'd be like, the Tingler does not scare me.
Yeah, the Blob did not. Why was this scary, Dad?
Yeah,
You're scared of this, you little wimp?
I think this is more about you, man.
Yeah.
My
Right.
niece made fun of
War
us
of
for
the
liking
Worlds,
the
like,
Munsters.
Oh,
Yeah,
She
yeah.
goes, and you like this?
Yeah. I think we probably should
That was a fun one.
wrap this all up here and thank Melissa for
Fun with
having
the
us here at
Fight
Reed's Local.
demons.
Come up here and check out Reed's Local. Check out the VHS. Get on the what's the zine called you put out?
Just the Reed zine.
Reed zine.
Yeah.
Reed zine.
It's
Reed
It's
zine,
just like
yeah.
a one-page newsletter, but twice a year we actually make it a real zine out of it. That one will be coming out in October.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
So
That's in time for
perfect.
that, right?
For your podcast.
They'll have all the events and things, which movies they're watching, always horror themed, and then, kind of, it's really cool. So thank you for having us, Stephen. Thanks for
thanks
coming
for
in.
inviting
me on. Guys.
Go
This
check
was
out
so
Killer
fun.
Pinata, the bride of the Killer Pinata. They're really fun, a lot of fun, and they were kind of.
And then the
a
next
good
5
watch.
that are coming out.
Yeah, the next 5. That's
Pinatas
right.
in space.
And thanks,
3D.
and to Luke
Luke.
for those awesome movie recommendations.
While we were doing this, he was working on the doors and
Keeping those
things like
ghosts
that.
down there.
Keeping the ghosts locked away. We had to change the padlock. Keeping this podcast safe. All right, that's it from the rabbit hole of research on the road leading
And
up
you
to
did
Halloween
record it,
episode.
right?
We did recording, yes. We had a bit recorded. I'll listen back at it and make sure. But thank you for coming back with us and doing all this. So I am Joe.
You got Nick?
Melissa.
Steven.
Georgia.
And this is the rabbit hole of research.
And we went down some holes.
That's it. Love you out there. Be safe, people. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you.